Welcome everyone from YouTube. My name is Sloth, this is Godforge, and thanks a lot for stopping by. In today's video, I want to once again talk about another rare hero who is also performing very good. And the hero actually was recommended by you. First by Hags. He recommended me to use Li Naomasa. And first of all, thank you very much Hags for your recommendation. I will give him a try in this video, or I already gave him a try, and I was honestly impressed. Also in your headset, thank you as well for recommending me the same hero. So it seems like there is something about this hero, and let me show you why this hero is so good. But first, once again, thank you very much for the recommendations. However, let's get into this. The hero, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong once again, Li Naomasa, is very cool. He has a very cool, interesting kit. Once again, nothing too complicated. He does not bring too many different things to the table, but what he brings to the table is very useful. And in my opinion, once again, like the bread and butter of this hero, is his basic attack. He attacks one enemy with very decent scaling and has a 20% chance, additional chance for critical hits. Just a built-in crit hit chance is very useful. But it is all about the second part here. Then it decreases the target turn meter by 10%. And as you can see, there is no limit, there is no condition or any chances, it just decreases the turn meter by 10%, period. And then if the target is below 50% HP, it actually decreases the turn meter by 20% instead. So, and this is so useful in so many different areas. We will talk about this in just a second. However, very important to note, once again, you need accuracy for this to activate. So building him with accuracy is crucial. But we will talk about this in just a minute. Next is core skill. Here he attacks all enemies with 300% attack, which is decent, which is okayish for an AoE. And then he has a 20% additional chance, once again, for a crit hit. He just has a built-in 20% additional crit hit chance, which is very cool. But then, if there are more than 4 enemies alive, so at least 5 enemies, he places an extra hit on all enemies. And then all of a sudden, this scales with 600% attack on an AoE, which is very good. So this core skill is very nice, but it is important to note it have to be at least 5 enemies. So for some wave contents this works, for campaign this does not work since there are always only 4 heroes. Unless you are at a stage 10 of one of those chapters, then you have often 4 heroes and the boss, so then this works. But in general, this is more designed for dungeon content and for the weapon dungeon, because there you have always 7 enemies. You have the boss and those 6 totems. So there, this battle skill or this core skill is very good as well. And then his ultimate. Here he attacks one enemy with very decent scaling, 420% of attack. And then after that, he attacks all enemies, once again with 420% attack, with an additional 20% chance for a crit hit. But for a single target, this is a very good nuking skill, because you have those 420 attack twice on one target, and then in general 420% attack on an AoE is very good scaling. And then if the initial target is defeated, the second hit will also ignore 15% of the target's defense. It just helps him to deal so much more damage. 15% defense ignore, definitely nothing to underestimate. And then he can also inflict or place the banish debuff, which is just a block revive. I don't think that this is that important early on for dungeon content, but I could imagine that this could be interesting for PvP, which we will be able to experience in the second run of the beta. And then finally, his passive. It just increases the damage in general that this hero inflicts by 5% for each living enemy. For waves, this is very decent, and especially for the dungeon that provides weapon materials and weapons. This is a very cool passive, because you have 7 living enemies, so this will just increase his overall damage by another 35%. And that's it. As I said, his kit is nothing too complicated, it's mostly focused around damage, getting a good amount of damage, but then also this. The fact that he can decrease the target's turn meter is very good, and definitely nothing to underestimate. And I will show you in just a minute why this is so good. But first, let's talk about his gear recommendations real quick, because there is definitely a set bonus that is so much fun to use on this hero. And I'm talking about the body set. And ideally, if you can somehow manage this, you should aim for a 6-piece body set. This is so cool on this hero, it is so much fun. First, this increases his basic ability damage by another 15%. Damage increasement, always cool, we love to see this. Then he also heals himself by a percentage of the damage inflicted with his basic abilities. So very cool, because he is not that tanky, and this built-in heal helps a lot. But then the 6-piece set is so cool. 50% chance to gain an extra turn after using his basic ability. And as I said, his basic ability is it's his bread and butter, at least for dungeon content, for boss content. So the 50% chance for an additional turn is so cool, honestly. It is so fun, and it really helps you keeping the boss turn meter down. So this is why I would aim for a 6-piece body set if somehow possible. Of course, early on this is not that easy, and then you can just go with whatever you have, which is good. Just aim for some good stats. Ideally, you want a good amount of speed. 150 is fine, but if you can somehow manage to squeeze a bit more speed, it is definitely worth it. And apart from that, accuracy. You need accuracy, you really need accuracy. It always depends a little bit on the stage that you are currently facing. But right now I'm facing stage 10, or I'm trying to beat the stage 10s of most dungeons, and their 117 accuracy is actually not enough. Often I get resisted. However, for stage 8 and 9, this was absolutely fine. So something between 100 and 120 for up to stage 9 should be fine. This should be your goal. Apart from that, just try to give him a little bit of attack, a bit of crit rate and crit damage. You don't need too much crit rate, because he has some built-in crit rate. But apart from that, just first aim for speed and accuracy. And then if we talk about his weapon, right now, as you can see, I'm using only level 1 weapon because I'm low on materials. And I'm not entirely sure, honestly, what is a good weapon for him. I always try to recommend some of the blue weapons, because those are the most accessible ones early on. And they are also relatively easy to level up. So whatever you have, ideally something that provides speed or accuracy is definitely helpful. And I think the Tonk Spear is something that is nothing to underestimate. Just once again a little bit of increased damage, and then since it is blue, you have access to a lot of those, and then you have something which provides attack as a main stat, and accuracy or speed as a secondary stat, and then this is a very good weapon. But of course, maybe you have a very good legendary weapon. Like this one, I don't like it that much, honestly. But if you have a good legendary weapon or an epic weapon, you can go with this as well. For example, the Brunhild weapon, just for some additional built-in healing, or when you have the Heimdall's weapon, just increasing his damage inflicted to bosses is also something very cool. And well, that's it pretty much when it comes to gearing this hero. One thing to mention just real quick, you should definitely unlock his first Ascension. All additional Ascensions definitely help. Those increased stats are nothing to sleep on, but the first one is crucial and very important, because his passive is just so cool. Just is so much increased additional damage, and absolutely worth it. Then another thing to talk about just real quick are his abilities. Since he always decreases the target's turn meter on his A1, no matter what, he's actually not that big of a priority to scroll up, in my opinion. Of course, it really helps, because it just increases his damage output by quite a lot, but it is not mandatory. It is not as important as scrolling up your rare heroes that bring some form of debuffs or control effects, in my opinion. So I would just prefer to build someone like, to scroll up, someone like Skadi or Machao first. However, now let's get into some dungeon showcases. Just talk about this hero real quick, why he is so good. And the area there where he shines the most, in my opinion, is the Workshop of Ptahs. This is the dungeon that I would recommend you to focus on early on, the gear dungeon that I would recommend you to focus early on. First, because it is just a bit easier, in my opinion, than the Svarog's Horde. But also I have to admit that I didn't pay that much attention for the mechanics at the Horde here as well, for now. So take this with a grain of salt, but it is just that those set effects here, most of them are very, very good. So this is why I would recommend you to focus on the Workshop of Ptahs first. And what makes him so strong here in this area is the fact that he brings the turn meter decrease on his A1. And what makes this dungeon such a pain is the Might of Ptah. This is the buff that makes this dungeon so hard, because he has 75% damage reduction when those stacks are active. And early on, relatively fast, he has 40 of those stacks, which is very hard to remove. But the best way to remove those stacks is to reduce his turn meter, because every single time that this boss receives a turn meter reduction, it will decrease those stacks by 5. And this is where this hero shines. He just can keep down those buffs very, very fast. Especially if you use the body 6-piece set on him, because you then just have those additional basic attacks here and there. But even without, it is absolutely fine. He on his own is able to keep down those stacks. But it's not only about keeping down those stacks, it also is just so useful to reduce the enemy turn meter on a regular basis. Just because it helps your team to survive, it helps you to deal more damage, and this is pretty much it. This is why this hero is so strong. But apart from that, he also helps with clearing the waves. Getting through those waves faster and clearing those waves in time is also very important, because if you don't clear those waves fast enough, they will deal quite a good amount of damage as well. So, in general, he's so good designed for especially this dungeon, but not only for this dungeon. He helps in all the Ascension dungeons as well, because he just keeps, in general, the enemy turn meter low, which helps you. It really, really helps you. And also, as I said, for the Hags Hollow, he's also just insane, because first, he deals a good amount of damage, and second, as you can see, the time is actually quite good, thanks to him. And second, he keeps the turn meter low. But yeah, I'm starting to repeat myself. So yeah, I think that's it. But there is one more thing that I want to mention just real quick when it comes to the workshop of Ptah. Because there is something which is also very useful here, especially if you don't have Li Naomasa. It is a weapon, it is an Ascension for one of your weapons, an imprint, I'm sorry. The imprint that I'm talking about is Pangu's Imprint. If the hero has more faith than speed, then all his attacks steal 5% turn meter. And it does not matter how much turn meter you steal, as long as you steal a little bit of turn meter, it helps to keep down those stacks, those 40 stacks or whatever, how many stacks it are. You want to keep those stacks down, and then this Pangu Imprint can actually be very, very useful as well. And then one final thing to mention just real quick, when it comes to the workshop of Ptah, but this is also true for the Svarog's Horde, you should aim to farm at least stage 7. Stage 8 is also of course better, but if you struggle to farm stage 7, you should definitely try to build a team that is able to farm stage 7 with either Li Naomasa or the imprint that I just showed you. Why? Because when you reach stage 7, you're guaranteed to get 3 and 4 star materials, while at stage 6, you also get those 2-star materials, which it is definitely just worth it to go for those 3 or 4-star gear. However, that's it. I think I've mentioned everything important. If there's something to add, if I forgot something, please let me know in the comments below. And apart from that, as always, if there is a hero that you would recommend me to build next, to try next, please let me know in the comments as well. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much for stopping by, and see you in the next one.